Good morning and welcome to the Standing Policy Committee on Community Services for Monday, September 8th, 2025. I am the chairperson, City Councillor Vivian Santos for Point Douglas Ward, together with my other committee members, Councillor Matt Lard, Councillor Sean Dobson, and Councillor Cindy Gilroy. We also have members of the public service with us, Leah Cowan, Senior Committee Clerk, and some other members from Community Services. I want to acknowledge that we are meeting on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional homelands of the Red River Métis that we all have the privilege of living on. Also want to acknowledge our ancestral territory lands. Together with our water, drinking water comes from Shoal Lake Band number 40 in Treaty 3, together with our neighbors in Treaty 5, where our hydroelectricity comes from. We are moving into appeals first, so I will move it over.
Motion for to accept the previous meetings on July 2nd, 2025.
Okay, thank you for doing that. All in favor?
Aye.
It's carried unanimously. And now we move into appeals and we'll have our clerk start us on our way. Thank you.
In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, the process the committee will follow is the appellant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the appeal. Next, those registered in opposition are heard, followed by those registered for information. Finally, the appellant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made. However, no new information is permitted. Please note that when your name is called, it is your opportunity to speak. However, you are not obligated to do so. Item 1 is an appeal under the Neighborhood Livability Bylaw number 1 of 2008 at 105 Maple Street North. Please note additional communications were received in support of the appeal, which have been distributed to all members of the committee. The committee would like a brief overview of the public service. Yes, please.
Morning, Madam Chair and Councillors. I'm Corey Burgess. I'm the Acting Coordinator for Bylaw Enforcement Operations for CMS Licensing and Bylaw Enforcement. I am joined on Zoom today by Aaron Price, Bylaw Enforcement Coordinator for the Vacant Buildings Bylaw. Aaron is going to join us by Zoom if required. Bylaw Enforcement Coordinator may be called upon for additional details specific to this property and/or communications with the property owner. I'll now enter a brief opening statement for the record and provide an overview of the matter before the committee. While I'm talking, I'll draw your attention to the enforcement summary and photos provided in Exhibit 5. Licensing and Bylaw Enforcement is responsible for enforcement of the Neighborhood Livability Bylaw, number 1 of 2008, and the Vacant Buildings Bylaw, 79 of 2010. The Neighborhood Livability Bylaw, 1 of 2008, was put in place to regulate the maintenance of properties and other aspects of neighborhood livability in order to develop and maintain safe, orderly, viable, and sustainable communities, and to promote and maintain the health, safety, and well-being of residents. The majority of service requests for licensing and bylaw enforcement are complaint-based, and the service responds to community concerns received through 311 or as referrals from other agencies and departments, such as Winnipeg Fire and Paramedic Service. When a request for service is received, bylaw officers attend to the property and conduct an inspection. Officers assess conditions for bylaw violations and issue compliance orders as necessary. Important to note that all notifications and orders are sent in writing to the address provided by the owner to the City of Winnipeg Assessment and Taxation Department and are served to the owner of the property via registered mail in accordance with the Winnipeg Charter and the bylaw. Owners are responsible for retrieving their mail and complying with the orders. Orders are deemed served after 3 days. All compliance orders include the officer's name and a phone number for our office on the order, as well as the contact for the general line. This is done to facilitate communication directly between the owner and the bylaw enforcement officer. Officers re-attend the property after the compliance date to confirm the conditions are brought to a state that is bylaw compliant. When conditions are not bylaw compliant, the officer will begin enforcement. The intent of the enforcement process is to ensure owners are aware of their obligations and maintain their property in compliance with the bylaw. Specific to this, licensing of bylaw enforcement became involved with the former Vulcan Ironworks site at 105 Maple Street, 150 Sutherland Avenue, after the site was damaged by a fire event in July of 2023. Since the fire, licensing and bylaw has been involved in investigations, monitoring conditions, and enforcement. Property planning and development took lead on enforcement for demolition of structures at the property. LBE is aware PP&D issued an unsafe condition order in September of 2023. That order was appealed. There were additional delays outside the appellant and the city's hands as the province was involved due to asbestos concerns. During the appeal process, the owner and his representative argued that the remaining structures were worth saving and should not be ordered demolished. PP&D subsequently reissued their order on May of 2025. The revised order allowed for the owner to A, repair the buildings and obtain occupancy permits, or B, demolish. This change meant the remaining buildings were vacant buildings. License and bylaw enforcement contacted the owner to advise this property was now going to be considered a vacant building and enforced under the vacant building bylaw. I provide this background as preamble for why licensing and bylaw enforcement officers were involved in attending the property. The order under appeal today is issued under the neighborhood livability bylaw. It is a litter garbage order. Orders are issued for conditions observed by special constables for the city of Winnipeg when bylaw violations are observed. The officer observed garbage on the property not related to the demolition site. This garbage represented a violation of section 6 of the neighborhood livability bylaw. In accordance with enforcement processes, a compliance order was issued to have the garbage accumulation removed from the property. All garbage orders received the same compliance timeframe. This order was issued on July 23rd. Compliance timeframe was July 31st. The order was sent registered mail, as is required by the bylaw. Both were deemed legally served after 3 days. The appellant left a voicemail for bylaw enforcement officers on July 30th, acknowledging receipt of the order and requesting a callback. Officer completed the callback on July 31st, at which time the owner indicated they had appealed the order. Licensing and bylaw enforcement is aware the owner has begun steps to bring the property towards compliance with this order. However, as of August 27th, the property remained in non-compliance with shopping carts, scrap wood, discarded machinery, discarded tires, vegetative waste, loose litter, and rubbish observed on the property. Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Do you have photographs of the and with the times on it of the debris in question?
Photos we have are included in the exhibit 5 and just underneath the summary of the enforcement that's been done so far. It'll show conditions that were observed in the initial inspection as well as the follow-up done in August.
And I know that one of the questions was that they felt that the order was vague and they weren't sure what the cleanup order was for. Can you just direct me to what page is that on? Where we define what debris needs to be cleaned up?
So the order itself stated that the officer's observations were observed garbage throughout the property, including but not limited to shopping cart, scrap wood, discarded machinery, discarded tires, vegetative waste, loose litter, and rubbish.
Okay, perfect. And then, yeah, I do, sorry. I did find the pictures. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question. This particular one is order number 511-2380, correct? The littering and garbage order. I see 2 other ones listed here. Is this part of it too?
We give you a summary of the enforcement we've done. So there are other orders that have been issued at the property.
Okay,
I'm not sure what you're looking at, but I'm assuming it's the
there's 3
summary.
orders listed for that same date.
Yeah, we have other orders issued under the vacant buildings bylaw. Those have been appealed and will appear at the PP&D committee.
Okay, so this is the only one we're dealing with. There's the littering and the garbage. Okay, that's clear then. Thank you.
Follow-up question. I have a question with respect to the exhibits. Exhibit 5, which shows officers' observation, right? And I think there's about 1, 2, maybe 3 pages that were taken back in July, or sorry, 2 pages that were taken in July, right? I think there's like a collage of photos I see here that were taken in July. And then following that, I see another 2 pages dated in August. I think you had mentioned that was the August 27th inspection that was done, and I see another collage. So what I'm seeing here in August, this is what is now left over after the kind of initial cleanup and work. This is all that's left over from the garbage that was seen in July.
It was an update. We went for a compliance inspection to
Okay.
see if there was progress towards
Okay.
compliance, which there was.
Okay.
But there still remained garbage on the property.
Okay, which is what we're seeing on the inspection photos of August 2025. Okay, would you say that's like a significant or not enough cleanup? Or is there like, to me, what I'm seeing, it looks like there is a significant amount of cleanup, but I guess your officers feel it's still not, you want it completely clean, like completely removed.
We work in absolutes with the bylaw.
Okay.
It's either garbage is cleaned up and no longer accumulated on the property, or it's still
Okay.
there. There is still elements of garbage there.
Okay,
Not disputing there is progress, but there's garbage still there.
okay, sounds good.
Not to the point where we can say the order has been satisfied.
Sounds good. Thank you. Okay, any other questions? Saying none? Okay,
So first we'll hear from the appellant, Sheldon Blank, or would you prefer that Antoine speaks as the appellant? Or just
I'll speak first, Ms. Collins.
as the appellant?
I'm the, like, second.
Okay, sure. Just so you know, only the appellant speaks in rebuttal to comments made. So whoever wants to have the opportunity for rebuttal would come up. And Sheldon, did you want me to pass these out now, or would you like them passed out during your presentation? Would you like these passed out now, or would you like them during your presentation? Now? Okay.
Yes,
Great.
please.
Draconian law comes to mind. Great philosophy, great philosophy. You have this electronic.
This is not providing this letter.
Okay. Is it possible to get this electronically? Would it be possible to get this electronically?
I'm sure.
Yes, it would be. We would,
If it's germane to the conversation today.
um,
If not, I'll.
I don't think we can do it right now. Councillor Allard, apologize.
No apology. It's not part of our process, so thanks.
there you go. Morning, welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chair and councillors. My name is Antoine Acole. For the record, I represent Gateway, the owner. As Madam Chair will be aware, during previous proceedings, with respect to this property, increased security was put in place. And also, there's a process that's begun in collaboration with PP&D to get issuance of a development permit and a building permit. The building permit, that process, part of it is to clean up the property. So some of the background of the remaining rubble, it was caused by the contractors which were brought by the city to the site during the fires. And the owner has spent significant expense to continue to clean the rubble caused by those contractors so that they can proceed to repair the building and get an occupancy permit for that building. A little bit of background too, to our knowledge, there's been no investigation with respect to the multiple arsons. The fire did not declare them as an arson. The owner has security that goes around 24/7, each 6 hours, I believe. And there's multiple calls to the city of Winnipeg Police, some during incidents where trespassers are on the property. I'll relate why that is important, because even in the August 27 picture, we look at previous pictures, some of those shopping carts were removed. Trespassers continue to go on the property and continue to put garbage on the property and continue to put shopping carts with stuff on there, notwithstanding our security. Unfortunately, city enforcement can't help the way the owner would like it to be. So that is a challenge, because if people keep on trespassing and they know they can do it without any enforcement by the city of Winnipeg Police, they just do it and they continue bringing garbage on the site. That explains part of what's on the site. One incident, the arsonists were actually still on the property doing the fire. Police attended, no charges were laid. If there should have been distributed by paper pictures If we look at, I can direct, they should be numbered, pictures 23, 25, and 26. So 23, 25, and 26 produced this morning. These show the actions of so 23 is the garbage being brought on by trespassers on this property. Needs to be cleaned up. So it's not the owner who's putting it there. 24 is where when we were cleaning up the property, we're actually taking carts away. And I believe the enforcement officer is aware that even after one of the carts were taken away, 3 new ones appeared on the property. And one of the pictures of the carts and the demolition of the cart is pictures 25 and 26. I say this because the owner is making earnest efforts to clean up the garbage on the property. It's a challenge because if you get trespassers continuing to bring things on the property, it's hard to keep up to it. By way of background, this property was actively rented and there were a number of active businesses on this property, one of which was a tire business. And we've given pictures of that. Again, you're numbered 20, 21, and 22. So people are scavenging for some of those tires. It was about a month ago that the owner applied for development and building permits. And the cleanup is part of the building permit process. I have about 1 minute left, I think.
How much time do you want?
I think I'll finish in 1 minute. I have 2 or 3 seconds.
I move a 1 minute extension.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
It's carried. Go ahead.
The owner needs support in ensuring a stop to trespass and arson and in proceeding with the establishment of a new business on this site. We request that the order be canceled and we let Gateway complete the project and go forward with its development permit and building permit, repairing the building, and ultimately obtaining an occupancy permit. There are pictures of additional work this owner is doing. They have cleaned up the boulevards. That's not part of any order. And they have resodded all the boulevard along this property. So they're making active efforts to deal with that. That is in the package that is online that's called landscaping and fencing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sure.
Any questions for the delegation?
Yes.
Okay, do a couple hands up. I heard Councilor Lard, then Dobson, then Gilroy.
Well, it's more of a high level question. Madam Chair, through you to the appellant. So I understand the broader context and how the owner is contributing to the welfare of the neighborhood. However, germane to this conversation, I think, is the bylaw itself. And I guess as somebody who has, well, as I think a practicing lawyer, would the appellant explain exactly what bylaw they speak to the bylaw specifically, not the overall environment, and why the appellant believes that there is bylaw compliance, because I believe that is what we are meant to rule on today. Whether the bylaw is a good bylaw or a bad bylaw is not what we're discussing today. It's whether or not there's compliance or not compliance.
Thank you for the question. 2 points on that. Some of your bylaws have overlap. So there's a process in place with PP&D for cleanup of the property as part of the development and building permit process that's been in place for 1 month. And secondly, I do quite a bit of work for rural municipalities, and often, especially if the bylaw officers are aware of another department's efforts and process with respect to the property cleanup, they utilize their discretion as long as they see progress in the owner's actions in that other process, not their specific process. So you're correct that there's an issue of compliance with, no garbage. Two things on that. If it's not the owner bringing the garbage there, I mean, ultimately, I guess it's his responsibility to remove what trespassers bring there. But in my experience, at least in rural municipalities, there's a significant amount of discretion exercised by bylaw officers when they know there's another process that overlaps. I hope that answers your question.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. From you to the appellant, I think unfortunately, I think I heard confirmation of the bylaw violation, which is germane to the committee's decision today, and the bylaw officer's discretion being used or not used. That's a process that happens before the bylaws in front of committee, and the committee's job today it's my understanding that my moral and fiduciary obligation is to determine whether or not the bylaw is in compliance or is not in compliance. And given that I believe, if I could infer from your responses, that yes, indeed, there's a bylaw violation, regardless of the circumstances, it seems that the committee needs to rule on the bylaw either adherence or non-adherence. And so I think it's pretty clear based on your response where we're at with that.
Perhaps you misunderstood my response. The property, as you can see from the pictures that we've provided, there is no really remaining garbage. If you look at the big flat area around all the fencing, and that's the more recent pictures. I attended the site last Friday. I didn't see anything from the property line looking on the inside that would indicate that there's any remaining garbage on this site.
So maybe perhaps one more question, and I don't know if it's possible to ask a concurrent question with the help of the public service, but I've been on this committee a while, and we have at times kept the bylaw order in place in order to consider the circumstances at a future time to ensure the bylaw is at that time compliant. And we have done things, not this committee specifically, but the appeal committee in general. We've done things like waive the rules, waive things like fines or parts of fines when we found the bylaw to be in compliance at a future date. I guess maybe it's not for the administration at this point, but to the appellants, is that something that would be amenable if the appeal committee were to keep this bylaw in play, so that it would be considered at a future meeting, so that we, the city, maintain the power through the bylaw order to enforce or not enforce based on the conditions at that time. Perhaps with the administration too. I don't know if it's a point in time or not. And I don't know if I'm out of order with administration. No fines. Well, okay, so that would be a question then in terms of how we enforce compliance, but that would be, I think, something for the administration. Is it in order to ask questions to the administration right now? Yeah. So if there are no fines, we're asking for compliance, then why are we here?
Following procedure.
Yeah.
Yes, the clerk, the correct procedure.
Yeah.
Just to ask the question of the administration.
Yeah, are we allowed to do that while we're still?
You can ask questions of the administration.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my question stands then, Madam Chair, through you, the public service. If there are no fines, then why are we here?
Because an order was issued and the appellant appealed the order.
Yes. what enforcement mechanism does the city have in order for the order to be complied in?
We have enforcement tools available to us. They're not in play at the moment. There's been no fines issued. This has just been an order issued. Based
Okay.
on the garbage that was observed.
Okay, so this time the appellant is appealing an order for which there are no fines. There are potential fines in the future, and the appeal itself has its own fee, presumably, in order for the appeal to be held. And what is that number? What is that dollar amount?
It was
250? Okay, so perhaps, Madam Chair, through you to the appellant, if there is no material immediate implication to this order, then why are we here? To the appellant.
I would hear because if the order stands without challenge, and we've substantially complied with the order, then I'm asking because there's a concurrent process where we are cleaning up as part of the demolition and building permit to cancel this order because it's already being dealt with by another one. We don't want a order standing that's in competition with another process, which might lead to some kind of a fine.
Okay, maybe one last question, because I know my colleagues are online too.
Yeah.
Given that we are not currently evaluating the policy framework of the city of Winnipeg or any other bylaw, we're only evaluating this one, compliance or non-compliance. We heard from the public service earlier that there is no discretionary tool, it's either compliant or non-compliant. And I think that essentially means if there's any garbage or not compliant, that's a tough, and there are photos of, I understand substantial completion. I understand there's perhaps not that much garbage. However, if there's garbage, then there's garbage, and there seems to me to be a violation. Just maybe that's my last question to the appellant.
Let's take it if I was a property owner, my own house. I get an order. There's a shopping cart. Somebody's brought, some undesirables have brought it. Okay, I take it off. Oh, they come and they bring 3 more. You're non-compliant, Mr. Echo.
Take it off.
Get off again, which is what we've been doing. But those are point in time things without where we do our best as an owner to comply with an order. Orders are usually a point in time. There's a non-compliance as of a particular time. And if that non-compliance has been dealt with, which we say it has substantially been complied with, repeated bringing of garbage, we take it off. Those would be new incidents and new offenses. And what we're seeing here is repeated vandalism on the property, which would constitute, I guess, a new offense. But we've been taking it off. We've actually gone further and we're cleaning up boulevards. We've sodded. We've done a whole bunch of stuff. So that's why we need to appeal, because if we've dealt with the original stuff and people keep on bringing garbage, we've shown all that, just like couches and further things that come after, those would be new events. But we need, if we've dealt with the first ones, there's compliance in my respectful submission, Mr. Council.
I think I made my point.
Okay,
Rhetorically.
the next speaker, go ahead, Councillor Doctor.
Through you, Madam Speaker, the tire business, is this still on site?
No, that is one of the buildings that was torn down by the contractors. So until there's the development permit and a building permit and an occupancy permit, no businesses are allowed to operate on that site.
Okay. Another question is, the site, based on the pictures that I've seen here, not your pictures, the ones that are listed as Exhibit 5, has the majority of this garbage been cleaned up?
Yes, if you look at the new photographs, 11, 12, and 13, those are consistent with my observations. That's the package that was provided to you today.
Yes, it certainly does look cleaned up. And when did this happen?
Well, it occurred over, the owner can provide more detail, but it's a continuous cleanup that's happening on the site with the view of getting the building permit and the development permit and an occupancy permit once the building is repaired.
If I understand correctly, the inspection was on July 23rd. And you had roughly, or you were given roughly a week to do the cleanup, had to be cleaned up by July 31st. I'm just questioning when the cleanup process started, that's all.
The owner will have to answer that question in his presentation.
Well, then I'll wait for the owner.
Councillor Gilroy?
Yeah, I have just a question to the admin first, is under the communications portion, when you say number of calls, number of emails, and additional communications, is that just with the property owner, or is that like residents?
That's cumulative. That's the work we've done on this
That's the work you've done till now.
relative to this enforcement.
And do you know if, because I do know, I noticed there's tires in the building, is some of the debris coming from off on site? Like, you know, if people are trespassing, are they trespassing on site and moving their own materials?
We have evidence that there was at least one person occupying the site. At one point in time, so.
So, and I am a city councillor that gets this all the time. My residents are constantly calling me because people have brought stuff onto their property and yet they have to remove it. So unfortunately, we are challenged with this as a city, as we're still dealing with a lot of addictions and mental health that does kind of really makes this behavior happen. And that's a challenge that's not going to go away. So the onus is on the owner to clean up the property. So if that means just like you have somebody coming in and making sure that the place is secured, you also need to make sure somebody's coming in and taking on away any new debris that is added. So I think that that's really critical for you to understand, because your property is so large. Like, you know, you can suggest fencing that, but the property is very large. It's a 5-acre piece of land. But I do want to make it known that, you know, the onus is on the owner to make sure that it is cleaned up, because what happens is that if there is debris, and that might mean daily checks, there could be fires and stuff from that debris. So that is the concern that I have as an area resident that has experienced this in my community, and we don't want fires. So that's a big issue. So my question is, are you securing the building? Thank you for the prompt, because I was going a little on. Are you securing your building properly so that there isn't people on the premises going inside the building, taking out tires and any other debris that is on the property?
So we have several materials showing the proactive way in which the owner is securing the site. Firstly, it is entirely fenced.
Okay.
And there actually are examples where immediately after the destruction of a fence, within a day or two, the owner has actually rebuilt the fence that was damaged. So this material is filed with you. So it's called Note to File. It's photographs that were taken in May, but they're June, so it was filed electronically.
Okay.
It's filed electronically. And in those pictures we see on that note that was filed, it's dated June 5 of 2025. It's on system. The first photograph is, we see that there was a fencing at that particular area. It was set on fire so people could start trespassing easier. And then if you go to the next picture, within a couple days, you can see the pictures of the entire repair. So the owner is very proactive in addressing your security concerns. In addition, even when I passed there last Friday to look at the property, the security services stopped me and they said, "Who are you?" And I introduced myself and had to identify why I was there. So there is security driving by this site. And also, as you can see from the photographs which we had sent today, there's security fencing all around the cleanup area too, all those, that blue stuff. So the owner is proactive in addressing those concerns.
You know, you have something else with PPND. And then my other question is, if you know the day that the bylaw officers are going to be coming, because you have a certain date on there, why wouldn't the owner, and maybe this is a better question for the owner, why wouldn't they make sure the premises cleaned up prior to the on-site visit of bylaw officers? That any new additional garbage wasn't cleaned up?
The owner may address this in further detail, but my understanding is that the owner asked for an extension of time because he didn't think that he could clean everything up within the time frame that administration wanted it cleaned up. That extension was refused. The owner continued to work at cleaning the property. So that's why the owner, as part of his grounds of appeal, you'll see that he didn't think that the time frame to do the cleanup was sufficient for him to deal with the enforcement officer's concerns.
Do you know what the time frame was? Was it 5 days or?
It was a 5-day cleanup order, is my
Okay.
understanding.
Thank you.
No further questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and
Yeah.
councillors, for your questions.
And you will have an opportunity to come back and speak in rebuttal to information that's been asked of the administration. I believe there is another speaker. Madam Chair.
So Sheldon Blank is here to speak in support of the appeal. Sheldon, you can go ahead. You have up to 5 minutes.
Morning.
Morning. Good morning. I wouldn't mind addressing your questions. I'm not sure I got them. My hearing is a little
Don't worry,
short,
we'll work it
but
out.
I'll start by telling you, the property and where it's located is a difficult place to be. It's a very, very tough place to sustain anything. And I had asked the people we're dealing with in the demolition and reconstruction of the building for permission to clean up the property prior to the notice. And I was told that the cleanup involves part of the demolition and can't be done by someone who doesn't have a demolition contractor's license. So in other words, even though and the letter are in the my documents, they're part of the grounds for appeal. You might see a letter from James Cameron and from me to him asking for permission and for him telling me that it has to be done by a demolition contractor. Regardless, when the inspector called me, I had told him about the contract, but that the application for the building permit and what we were doing, and that I wanted to clean up anyways, in spite of the fact that I didn't think a bylaw overrode the building code, the building bylaw. By example, one of the other orders we got was, and you'd asked about it, making the building secure, boarding up the building. Well, we can't board up the building without a building permit. So it's a catch-22. Now, as far as the property is concerned, it's 5 acres, huge property. For 5, and the order was to clean up. Had no idea what the extent of the cleanup was required. So even if we were to embark on it, it would have, and we had been doing things anyways, but even if we would have agreed, we didn't know how in the world we could do it in 5 days. We've taken out 10 roll-off containers of garbage, 2 container loads of trees and shrubbery. We have heavy equipment there. I don't know how in the world they could have suggested this could have been done in 5 days. Well, I was told by Mr. Burgess subsequently that it wasn't intended to be the demolition debris, but the order is not clear. It doesn't say what it was supposed to, what we were supposed to be doing. And again, I want to tell you, this is a very difficult project we're on, and we're trying to keep the property from becoming derelict, like 700 other pieces of property in Winnipeg. Well, now we're trying to get away with something. So we put brand new fencing up around the front of Sutherland Avenue. We put a subsequent fencing, an additional fencing around the building itself to give some additional security. We thought we would put some sod in and make it look attractive. You know, sometimes when you do some nice things, it looks nice, it has less vandalism. We're thinking, no, previously, they stole the fencing, people unknown. They stole cameras that we had up there. I mean, it's a full-time job to try and protect the property. But we're getting close. We've spent thousands of dollars on engineering people, electrical, mechanical, structural, and we've almost completed with the help of the city. Been very helpful. City department been very helpful with in guiding us, and we're almost there. We're almost close to getting the work started. Well, of course, we're going to do everything necessary to beautify the place. We're not looking to get away with something.
So do you need more time? I can move an extension of time if you'd like.
Absolutely, we need time.
No, I mean, for your presentation right now, you're out of time. Do you need more time to speak to us?
Okay, the time allotted in the first place was ridiculous.
Okay, but right now, germane to this moment is how much time would you like?
What we want to do is.
No, speaking right now, your time is
I'm
up.
offering you more time. How much time do you need?
I have permission just to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
His
Sorry.
hearing is not very good.
Yeah.
Okay, please, yeah.
Sheldon, there's a 5-minute time for presentation.
Okay.
So that Councillor Allard is asking
Yeah.
you, would you like additional time
I
to
do.
complete your presentation?
And how much? How much time?
Give me another 5 minutes.
Okay, I move 5-minute extension.
Okay,
Sorry.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Anyways, yes, I need more time here and I need more time to clean up both. So if we had time and if we tied, by the way, again, it's tied the permit that we're gonna get was decided upon by council by hearing, wherein the cleanup became part of that order. That was an order to obtain a building permit. So part of the building permit application involves cleanup. So we've been doing it, and I would say, Councilor Allard, with tacit approval. So we've been doing it, and I personally think we're doing a pretty good job. But it takes many people, many hours with lots of equipment. And you have pictures there that you can see of what we're talking about. We're talking about we're doing not only the debris, we're doing some of the other work too to make it safer and, the combustible material. But again, shopping carts, Mr. Burgess asked me on the phone, what about shopping carts? I said, well, we took away shopping carts. So I don't know if they appear on a daily basis, but I can tell you, in the course of a week, 2, 3, 4, 5 shopping carts will show up. Picture 23 of the additional pictures that I provided shows you the extent of the garbage that these homeless people collect. It's unbelievable. We're talking about truckloads of material.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine. I mean, but anyways, again, my point here is I want to assure council, we're not trying to get away with something. We're prepared to do it and do it in a nice way and bring people to the property, bring people to the area, which is, I think, what the bylaws are all about. You want to know what a bylaw is? It's supposed to make Winnipeg a better place. And we're trying to do that.
Questions? I think Councillor Gilroy had questions.
First to the public administration, when your notices go out, is it what it looks like on here? Do they get the pictures and the, where it says, so I lost my place in the exhibits? Where it actually says on the photos, sorry, I'm getting to it. It says here, compliance order, July, the date, officers' observations, observe garbage throughout the property, including but not limited to shopping carts, scrapper, like all of that descriptive stuff. Is that in the order that is given to the people that have to be in compliance? The owner.
What we mail out is the compliance order. There's no photos attached.
There's no photos attached, so they don't really know what, okay, so that's one thing. And I guess the next, why did you, if this person needs an extra time, I don't know, considering the amount of property that they have, if this person needed a little bit more time.
That'd be questions for the administration. Are you seeking more clarity?
Yeah.
You need clarity on the order, but if you're asking for like additional information that's not on the current compliance, I would like to save that questions for the administration when you have an
When
opportunity.
we have
to
an
speak.
option, that's
Yeah,
fine.
so
That's
do you
fine.
have questions of
Yeah,
the delegation?
Yeah, so just in terms of, because I want it to be very, very clear, because it's clear in my mind that this is not the same order as the PP&D. This is making sure, just like a grocery store, if somebody comes out and somebody takes a wrapper and throws it on the ground, every day that owner is picking up that wrapper, right? That's not dealing with the building stuff. So every day along your property, you have to clean it up. The stuff that's around your property now that you're wanting more time, don't lump it in with the PP&D stuff because they're not going to all parts of your property,
Question.
right? The question is, do you know how long it would take you to clean up what is
I don't even know what they want me to clean up.
garbage?
I don't know.
Garbage
Well,
on the property.
I don't know that. They've never outlined and showed me what we're talking about. That's part of the problem. I've never been, the telephone conversation I had with Mr. Bridges last week is when he identified the fact
Mhm.
that they weren't talking about demolition debris.
Oh,
Now, so I didn't know what, I said the order was vague. I don't know what they're talking about. But you see, part of the problem is the demolition debris or whatever is part of the demolition is construed by the people in charge of the demolition as what was part of the building, what was in the building before. And if you look, there's a note from one of the other inspectors that it's in the package and grounds for appeal. It's actually the last document that he says the people are rummaging through the building and taking materials out. Does he sold there? That's part of the, what would be construed as part of the demolition debris. But I mean, regardless, I want to clean the site up. Okay, so the question is, do we do it pursuant to the building code obligation we have? Or are we gonna have a separate, I'm not sure why it's necessary to have two bylaws. You know, we have one bylaw that takes care of the whole, and we don't get an occupancy permit unless we comply. So you have control of the property, and I'm saying you don't need it, because it's our intention to do it anyways. But you know, we're gonna have another hearing. Mr. Kerr gave me another notice about boarding up the building. Well, I can't board, that's a
That's
violation.
not what we are.
It's not, no, but I'm sure,
Yeah.
okay. This order I couldn't do in 5 days. It was impossible. It was impossible to do it. It's like, you see the site you have across the street here? This site is twice as big. You couldn't do it in 5 days.
Any other questions for, yeah, go ahead, Counselor Dobson.
I did have a question on, when you got the order on, say, July 23rd,
Yes.
when did you start cleaning it up?
I started cleaning up way before that.
Yeah, but at that point, it was still considered quite bad, so.
I'm sorry.
The pictures you submitted show quite substantial cleaning. The question is, when did that happen?
We've been cleaning all along for at least two and a half months. We've been cleaning before we got the order. We've been cleaning. If you read the letter that I wrote to James Cameron, you'll see I asked for permission. I said tacitly doing it. We were cleaning. On the one hand, they want us to clean. On the other hand, they don't want to let us clean. But we were doing work, and we've done quite a bit of work now. I think Mr. Burgess will acknowledge there's a very significant amount of work that's been done.
My other question is, do you consider the site, not the actual building and not shopping carts, all the other debris, tires and scrap wood, is that all cleaned up now?
The what?
Tires?
Tires.
Yeah.
I think the tires have been collected. I'm not sure there's containers. There's about 4 or 5 containers on the site right now. And I think all the tires, they've been looking for the tires. Yeah, I don't know if the tires have been removed from the property, but they're in a container now, ready for removal.
Okay, well, if they're in a container, then that to me would be the first step in removing them, and that would probably satisfy the requirements. Okay, that's it for me for questions.
Any other questions, Counselor Lard? No? All right. Thank you. We're done with questioning and we're gonna, oh yeah, I think you have to ask.
Just confirming that there's no one else registered in support or in opposition to this appeal, just confirming that no one in the gallery is looking to speak in support of
Thank
or in
you.
opposition to this appeal. Okay, there are questions for the public service?
Yes, I think Counselor Gilroy, you had questions.
Yeah.
Now we can ask that question.
Yeah, just, you know, cause some people seem to be, they're very confused over the PP&D cleanup versus the everyday maintenance cleanup that as, you know, residents and owners of our property that we have to do. And he seems to think he needs more time. Could we give him more time in order to do this? Hoping the fact that he doesn't think that the demolition portion of it is gonna meet the needs of the daily tidy up that you're talking about. Do you think we can just allow him more time to complete this?
Suggest he's had more time because we haven't done any further enforcement during the appeal period leading up to today's hearing.
So, and how long has it been since you've given the compliance order and now to the appeal? How many days has it been?
I don't know the number of days, but it would have been from July 15th when we were on site and observed it, to July 23rd when the order was issued, July 30th when the owner acknowledged that he had received the order, through to September 9th, are we on today? Sorry. 8th. Bring.
Whether the people ask questions.
Well, I don't know, were you in line? Were you in line for questions?
Well, I just, I'm fine.
Okay, well, I guess perhaps confirming, and I'm not sure if, Madam Chair, through you to
Yep.
look service, the person to confirm this or not, but I guess the defense of the appellant seems to be not related to the actual order itself. And would you please confirm outside of that, because I think it's more of a matter of counsel in terms of policy compliance or bylaws conflicting with bylaws, but is it correct to interpret your order as being interpreting scrap wood and discarded machinery as examples of the garbage that accumulated on the property at the time of inspection? Like, are there the specific, what's the specific garbage violation, I guess, maybe?
So the officer's observations were shopping carts, scrap wood, items that were previously.
Okay. And
When we talk about the scrap wood, the pictures that were collected, the evidence that was collected shows there were broken pallets and other things buried along the property, unrelated to the site of the demolition.
okay, so just perhaps to paraphrase, I'm not sure through the public service, though the bylaw doesn't have a provision to interpret construction as garbage or not garbage, the bylaw officers are citing, perhaps in your opinion, are the bylaw officers citing things that are not related to construction in their interpretation of garbage?
Construction and renovation debris is considered garbage under the bylaw. It's not what was observed or documented
Right.
as part of this particular order.
Yes.
As we do work in conjunction with other enforcement units of the city, and we are aware that PP&D had an order issued which covered those materials.
Okay, so just maybe one final closed question, hoping for more of a yes or a no. What I heard substantially is that, yes, there was another bylaw that was taken into consideration at the time in which this order was issued, and that the order issued was issued not related to the other bylaw, which was already covering those other things. I'm sure through to you to the public service. I can restate if you want.
No, I think what I'm gonna do is try to simplify, because I heard you looking for a simple answer.
Yeah.
When we attended the property, we observed garbage on the property. The process we follow is when we observe a bylaw violation, we issue a compliance order. What's being appealed today is that order. There's been no further discussions or meeting on site to go over exactly what materials need to be removed with the appellant. But at the heart of this issue is we observed garbage that was a bylaw violation and issued an order.
All right.
Okay, go ahead,
Yeah.
Councilor Gilroy.
To be clear, is that garbage outside of the construction site, which is the blue fencing around?
We're talking about garbage accumulation on the property. That would be inside the blue fencing that's now installed.
That and the garbage that's outside the fence? So you're,
Was there any garbage outside
Sorry,
the
to be
fence?
clear, there are two sets of fences. There's a
right?
fence established around the remaining building
Mhm.
that the owner intends to rehabilitate. And then there's a fence around the entire property. Both are blue fencing. And there is garbage inside both sets of fences.
Okay,
What we're
that's,
interested in is the garbage accumulation on the property.
okay, but that's not due to tearing down a building, or is it? Is the debris, are you talking about the debris, like the tires and stuff inside the building? Like, I think what he's talking about is if he goes to tear it down, then he can take away all the stuff at once, is what they're wanting to do, right?
And the
But-
timeline and for that, sorry, Councilor, I
Okay.
didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, no,
Timeline for that may be more relevant to some of the other orders that are issued and also to the initial demolition and abatement that was done for the buildings that collapsed.
Okay.
The building that remains somewhat separate from that.
that's separate from that. From the pictures we see here, there is debris that is not part of any kind of crew that would come in and demolish and take away part of a building. It is separate. It would require somebody to kind of go onto the property and am I correct? There is debris that is not part of the construction site that needs to be managed and kept.
Yes.
Okay. And do you think that the debris that is not part of the construction site that needs to be managed and kept, do you think that can be done within a week? It's done.
The city could accomplish it within a week if we move to remediate. I've not heard from the appellant what timeline he feels he can accomplish that in.
Any other questions? So, okay, so just to follow up on timelines. We're seeing other evidence of, looks like maybe in the beginning of September that they've done some more remediation. In your opinion, I don't know if you have copies of the photos, do you feel that is enough to be in compliance?
I've not seen the evidence that was provided to you today,
Okay,
or had an opportunity to review it, but I would suggest that if the property is brought to compliance, I would be willing to close out the order.
okay,
But we have not seen evidence of that, nor would we close it without attending the property to do a re-inspection.
so after this date, whatever the decision is being made, is it your intent, what would be the next steps? The intention of the department to go out and check if the debris has been cleaned in order to close this compliance? Like, does it happen today? Do you go out next week? Do you go out this week? Like, what's that time frame?
That would depend on what the committee decides.
Right,
Obviously, if the order was upheld, we would work with the appellant to schedule a time to go out on site and review.
Okay.
Hopefully add some clarity to their confusion and also hopefully be able to determine that compliance has been achieved.
okay.
But again, I have not seen the evidence provided today, so.
Not in person, okay, just the pictures.
Could we lay the matter over, ma'am?
You could be adjourn the hearing. There's also the opportunity to grant an extension of time to comply with the order if that's something the committee is interested in, but.
I move that.
Grant an extension of time, because what's the date they have to comply by?
I think the compliance date is July 31st.
Which has been expired, okay, so then what you would be, okay, so I'm hearing from the committee, there might be an
It'd be an
opportunity.
extension of time in order for the applicant to provide additional or
For another inspection.
another inspection, coordinate a meeting with public service related to this bylaw, not the other bylaw.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, do we need to put a date, Corey, you need a date? Do you need a date, or can we leave it open-ended? I don't know, I've never.
I think the public service, I think I'm
We
seeing,
need a date.
I think the public service is indicated their opinion already.
Maybe for
Thank you,
a date.
Councillor.
Okay,
I'm reading the body language.
okay.
I think this is a political,
That's a
political call on our-
decision,
on
but
our-
I mean, we're having that discussion.
I mean,
because-
we're at a rule on the bylaw today. I'm pretty sure I know how it would rule, but if we grant an extension of time, that would grant the opportunity for more information.
Okay,
For more information would be.
Well, presumably the appellant may or may not have further conversations with the public service.
To find if they comply.
If you
That's all.
would like for this to come back here, Counselor, that's an adjournment. An extension of time would just be extending the time the appellant has to compel or to, sorry, to
Oh.
comply with the order.
But so that's moot because they already have it, right? Is that my understanding?
We'll give them
Is
two.
it
weeks
moot
to
or not
go
moot?
it's not moved, we're still
not
in
moved?
discussion, no.
Yeah, the appellant's.
Okay, extension of time then.
Okay, we
Yeah,
need the
that's
appellant to
all.
come back though.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we
Okay,
do.
are you guys done questioning the administration? You
Yeah.
guys are good for
Yeah.
clarity? Okay, so we'll ask Antoine to come back and speak. Just conversing with his client. Okay, so we'll give Antoine another 5 minutes. You're allowed to speak in rebuttal to the information you have heard and no new information. That make sense?
Yes, it does, Madam Chair. So I tried to listen attentively. There's two things I think need to happen here. Firstly, Mr. Burgess has indicated he has not had an on-site meeting with the owner, right? To identify the non-construction stuff. So time needs to be allowed for that to happen. And then depending on what is identified that's non-construction related, there's gonna be time needed to address that. And unfortunately, it is very difficult for me to give you a reasonable time frame because we don't know yet what he's going to be identified. For those two reasons, I'm suggesting a 1 month extension. It would allow for the meeting and it would allow a reasonable timeframe to comply. It might be quicker because we're continuing to clean the property in any event in anticipation of the development permit and the building permit. So there may, we've been doing things in addition to cleaning. So that's the first thing. The second thing, and that's up to the discretion of this committee as to whether or not it wants to, I don't know when the next meeting is and if it's even necessary for us to come back. That's the second point. And that is really a matter of discretion of this committee as to whether or not it wants to come back before it makes a decision, a final decision on the appeal.
Work. unless
I'd like to-
appeal again.
I'd like it for it to come back.
I don't know, can we have that come back here? How would that work?
How do we know what happened?
I'm not too sure. So if an extension of time is granted for compliance, sorry, I'm not, did you want to, want to finish or? would you like me to-
Those are my comments. I'm trying to address in a succinct way what your concerns were.
So Corey, if an extension of time were to be granted, and I assume the public service would go out and ensure that compliance with the order is achieved. And if it's not, then a new order would be issued, or?
I'll say this is new ground for me. I've never had that particular thing happen during an appeal of an order. I'm not sure if I'm understanding that it's a change to the order where you're asking for a revision to the compliance date, or you're dictating more time for the appeal to unfold.
Why don't we just move layover? And between the time of now and then, there could be things that happen, right? And then we're not getting into any nebulous territory of this is new ground for me. I don't like hearing words like that. Why don't we just lay it over?
What would that look like?
Well,
The
I mean,
order would still be.
the order would still be active and we would consider this again, keep public hearings open.
The order would be active, but I don't think there is a there's no compliance date because the order
Compliance date.
the committee hasn't made a decision with respect to the appeal of the order. The order has been issued with a compliance date. The appellant has chosen to, the property owner has chosen to appeal that order.
Also, we need
So the
to,
committee,
on compliance, and we have to order
We just
compliance
extend the compliance date for a month,
a month from now.
yeah? Okay.
But I don't
Okay.
think they'll have an opportunity to come back.
They won't come back.
No,
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 okay,
no.
so, and then it's in the hands of the public service.
Yeah.
To do what they do.
Yeah.
I think that's in line with what the appellant is requesting. Madam Chair, through you to the appellants.
Um,
A 1 month extension on the
I don't,
enforcement.
a question which hasn't been asked, which might be explored, I've seen this in other appeals, is that this order is canceled. And if there is no compliance, a new order is issued. I think that's another option. And you can perhaps ask administration if that's an option.
I mean, Madam Chair, I'm sure it's an option. I'm not sure that's the direction that I would want to support. So that's not a question I'd like to ask.
Seeing no further questions, all right.
right, so we're finished with rebuttal then.
Yeah, they're not asking questions. Yeah, the rebuttal is done. Yeah, okay, perfect. All right. Seeing no further questions of the administration, which starts the process all over again. Seeing none. Okay, I'm just looking for a mover. And I guess mover of a motion and then discussion and debate if necessary. Okay,
I think
what page are we going here? Sorry.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I know what I'd like to do, so.
Page 3.
Oh,
So
sorry,
there's-
page 3.
Yeah.
So, I move that the public representation be concluded.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that's carried.
I move that the appeal be denied and that and this is where I need help, that there be a 1 month extension granted to the compliance date of the original order.
Sure, so you could move that an extension of time of 30 days be granted for compliance with the order dated July 23rd, 2025 regarding the
Brings us
provisions of the neighborhood livability bylaw. So 30 days would be
From July 23rd. That'll bring us to
30 days, which is
From now,
Today.
30
from
days from
today's
now,
date. Okay.
Yeah.
from today's date, you have.
Okay,
to
because the
specify
old
that,
date would have
please.
been problematic,
Yeah,
Well,
given
that's
the
like August
constraints of
31st.
time space.
that'd be October 8th.
Okay, so that would be,
You could say an extension of time be granted to October 8th for compliance with the order dated July 23rd issued by the ballot.
okay, so moved. Is everything in order, Madam Clerk?
Sure, so the motion from Councillor Allard is that an extension of time be granted to October 8th, 2025 for compliance with the order dated July 23rd, 2025 issued by the bylaw enforcement officer, Community Services Department regarding the provisions of the neighborhood livability bylaw for the premises located at 105 Maple Street North.
okay.
So moved. Did I give reasons for debate?
You don't have to.
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that's carried unanimously. Go ahead.
Well,
Last.
I guess that the appeal hearing be concluded.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that's carried unanimously.
Please note that the committee has made a final decision on this matter, which is not subject to further appeal.
Right.
Committee like to proceed to item 2?
Yeah, do you guys ready? Don't need a break? We
No.
can keep going? Okay,
Yeah.
we'll move
Okay.
on to the second appeal.
Item 2 is an appeal under the neighborhood livability bylaw, number 1 of 2008 at 73 Luxton Avenue. Please note communications were received in support of the appeal, which have been distributed to all members of the committee. The process the committee will follow is the appellant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the appeal, those registered in opposition, and those registered for information. The appellant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made, however, no new information is permitted. If you'd like a brief overview from the public service.
I remain Corey Burgess, the acting coordinator for bylaw enforcement operations for licensing and bylaw enforcement. I'll be joined for this appeal on Zoom by Jeff Betts, bylaw enforcement coordinator for the neighborhood livability bylaw. I'll be providing the usual brief statement on enforcement for the record, and the division has provided photos showing the conditions. Neighborhood livability bylaw 1/2008 was put in place to regulate the maintenance of properties and other aspects of neighborhood livability in order to develop and maintain safe, orderly, viable, and sustainable communities and to promote and maintain the health, safety, and well-being of residents. As the committee is aware, licensing and bylaw enforcement is responsible for enforcement of this bylaw. The majority of service requests for licensing and bylaw enforcement are complaint-based, and the service response to community concerns received through 311 or as referrals from other agencies. Overview of enforcement process. When a request for service is received, bylaw officers attend to the property and an inspection. Officers assess conditions for bylaw violations and issue compliance orders as necessary. It's important to note that all notifications and orders are sent in writing to the address provided by the owner to the City of Winnipeg Assessment and Taxation Department and are served to the owner of the property via registered mail in accordance with the Winnipeg Charter and the bylaw. Owners are responsible for retrieving their mail and complying with the orders. Orders are deemed served after 3 days. All compliance orders, including the officer's name and a phone number to our offices. This is done to facilitate communication directly between the owner and the bylaw enforcement officer. Officers re-attend the property after the compliance date to confirm the conditions are brought to a state that is bylaw compliant. When conditions are not bylaw compliant, the officer will continue enforcement. The intent of the enforcement process is to ensure owners are aware of their obligations and maintain their property in compliance with the bylaw. Licensing and bylaw enforcement involvement in this matter with 73 Luxton started in April 2024. This property was enforced as a vacant building. The owners on record since 2018 contested the vacant designation and moved into the building to change the status to an occupied building. LBE is aware of the following PP&D processes. Owner applied for new construction in December of 2018. It was not proceeded with. Owner applied for demolition permit in March of 2019 and it was canceled. Owner applied for building permit for structural alterations in February of 2020. That permit expired October 25th, 23. A 180-day extension was granted in 2023. That has since lapsed. Bylaw officers have attended the property and observed following conditions as noted on the order. The owner and the bylaw enforcement officer have spoken on August 13th, and the officer advised that enforcement would proceed under the neighborhood livability bylaw. In accordance with licensing and bylaw enforcement's process, the property conditions were observed to be in violation of the bylaw, and a compliance order was issued. The owner has appealed that order. Thank you.
Any other questions? Need any clarification? The order attached to the exhibit? Seeing none,
We'll just,
are we just looking at it?
yeah, we're just looking at it, sorry.
It's okay.
So the order is for, like, I just want to be clear on what the order is for garbage.
No, these are for building conditions. We have back lane numbers, eaves troughs, siding, roof in good repair, downspouts, all windows properly glazed.
Okay, and then like, so this is being kind of rebuilt. How long have they been taken to build the house? Has it been a,
Might be a question for the appellant. The building permit was issued in 2020. 2020.
2020? Okay, I think we're ready on speaker.
We'll call it for first.
Speaker. So we did have written submissions from the appellant and from Crystal DeRochier. They didn't register to speak, but are you here in the gallery today? Perfect. Okay, so Fernando Almeida is the appellant speaking in support of the appeal. Make your way up.
And their submissions are in our emails?
They're in the exhibits to the item,
Okay.
6 and 7, I believe.
Hi, Fernando, welcome.
Hi.
You have 5 minutes to speak, and sometimes you may be granted an extension if you're going over 5 minutes, but go ahead.
Okay, I am trying to upgrade this property. I have been running into all sorts of issues with doing it. My financing collapsed during COVID, so I've run into problems with financing and moving the project forward. The ultimate goal of the project is to have basically a new house in place with on the existing foundation, and I've had issues where I've had to have plans redrawn and engineers adjust things. I've had all sorts of problems that have increased costs and increased complexity to the point where we're at today that I have to, I'm basically completing work and moving forward as conditions and funds allow. And all of the items on the compliance order are all items that will be addressed as the permit process moves forward and as I get approvals for the different, like the structural and whatnot. The major thing I have is some of the order numbers on the compliance order don't reflect the actual status of the house. The roof is brand new, but it says that the roof must be kept in good repair twice on the order. It's a brand new roof. It can't be in better repair than brand new. So I'm confused as to why it was presented like it was on the order if the roof is brand new. The soffits are also brand new. The entire second floor is brand new. So I don't understand why it was said it wasn't in good repair when it's brand new. Things like the front stairs aren't in good condition. The front stairs aren't existing because it's supposed to have a front porch. And it hasn't been built because we now have to dig down the foundation and redo the foundation all the way around the house. So I basically it's as funds basically everything on the compliance order is getting done as permits and approvals and passing inspections are done. I just don't feel like it's fair to have compliance dates and face possible, according to the order, face possible, provincial or, bylaw charges, penalties and et cetera. When I'm moving towards compliance, I just haven't had the ability to do so due to circumstances beyond my control.
And is that your presentation?
Yeah, sorry, I'm new,
That's okay.
I'm new at this, so.
All right, we do have questions, so go ahead, Councillor Gilroy.
It's really important that you have stairs for life safety, even if you had to build temporary.
Well, the temporary stairs are on the back. The front door has a board over it so that no one uses it. And then, but the back stairs are fully functional and working.
So that would be something I'd be concerned with. And I think, they're probably talking about your eaves troughs and everything, because
The eaves troughs are missing, but I haven't gotten structural approval on the house yet, which is why I haven't closed anything in. I actually have the soffit and fascia and everything on site. I don't have the eaves troughs on site, but that's because they have to be made as ordered. But everything's on site, so as soon as the structural approval is done, I can put those up. And the goal was to get them up before winter, but it's out of my control as to when everything gets approved, everything passes inspection.
okay, so then I do want to kind of talk about what is in your purview, what you can do, which is just manual labor, which is cleaning up the garbage and debris.
There was nothing on the order about garbage and debris.
I thought I read that it was.
Is there people living in this home?
I am myself.
Okay, I have concerns about the egress, the
It's
entering and
out.
exiting.
The back door is fully functional and the
Yeah, but
stairs are
you
fully
don't have a front door.
The front door is there, but I put a board up so that we wouldn't use it because there's no stairs there.
So explain to me, if there were a fire to occur, you only have one exit.
No, I have all the windows. All the windows are brand new and fully functional.
From what I'm seeing pictures here, there's some windows on the side that are,
There's one on the side that I put a board on because one night I saw someone looking through it. So I put a board over it so they didn't think about trying to break it when I'm not home, because I leave and I'm the only one that lives there. So I also put security cameras front and back, so it is monitored 24/7 now. But that only helps if after something's happened, not necessarily to prevent something from
are you
happening.
doing all the renovations yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
And
You tried to reach out to bylaws? Did you?
I did, but I didn't get a response till after the appeal date had passed, so I did the appeal because I hadn't heard back from them. When I spoke to the officer, he said he was gonna talk to his superior because of the building permits, and then I haven't heard anything else since then. So I'm assuming that they're just waiting for the appeal.
Just to the administration,
As long as you're seeking clarification.
clarification, was there, garbage on that you were wanting was that part of the notice that you provided?
The order before us today does not include garbage in the property.
Okay, so that's not, but you have pictures of it, so I was just confused.
Some of those pictures are of building material,
Okay,
others are of garbage, but those were the photos collected. on-
There's decking for the front porch that is along the side of the building that's just being stored there. It's not garbage.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Dobson.
Yes, for the front door, the door's installed and it's just.
The door's installed, fully operational. I just put a board on it to make sure that no one has.
Scaffold
so
on
the-
the other side.
Yeah, there's scaffolding there and there's some cement off to the side from the old, where the old front door was and the old steps were. I just don't want someone opening the door and walking out in and falling into that.
So the door is there.
Yes. Like I could take the board off today and the door would be functional, locking perfectly fine. Same with the window on the side that has the board on it. I could take the board off right now and it'll be 100%.
And is there any reason why the plywood on the outside or the OSB is not protected by tieback or tie par or whatever you've got written here?
It was, I used some old Tyvek that I had, and just that one section was apparently too old, and I don't know if it ripped on its own or if someone threw something at it and cut it and it ripped, but it's ripped and the wind kind of caught it, blew it away. I picked it up and disposed of it, but I haven't had a chance to put new stuff on there. But the entire building has it, other than that one corner.
Okay.
If you could put a time frame on when your house could be completed, because I see your notes here, 90% of the house is the exact same, I think. Is that what I'm seeing here?
It's exact same as what?
I don't know, it says specific issues with compliance are as follows, 90% of the houses. Oh, sorry, I'm reading that wrong. My question is, what time frame are you looking for to complete your home? Like, since it seems
Honestly,
like
I would have had it
working on
completed.
I'm not done my question. Since you've been starting construction since 2018, doing permits since 2020 and requesting extensions, what time frame are you looking for to complete all these things that are outstanding on your home?
The exterior has to wait for the structural permits or the structural inspections to be approved. The issue is, even if they're approved by like mid-October, the exterior finishing is going to be vinyl siding, and I can't install that below plus 10. So even at this point, it would be difficult to install it if I got approved, if it passed inspection right now until spring. Just because in order to do a good job of installing vinyl side, and I also have to build the front porch as well still, and all of that stuff is just cosmetic once the structural is complete.
When you say structural, you mean the foundation?
I mean the foundation. I mean the all of the structural components of the building have to pass final inspection before and I also have to dig out the foundation on the outside to do what the engineer has stated that I need to do to have it pass inspection at this point, which is another.
How long is that gonna take?
Once I have funds, it depends on when I could find I'm gonna have to subcontract that out, so I don't know. That's the problem. Like, it's not a fixed time frame.
Have questions of the administration
Yeah,
later on.
I have another question.
Right.
Is there a reason why you don't have a number on the house? It's a standard thing. If there was ever a fire or something, it's nice to have a number on the front and the back.
Honestly, it was just because the trim wasn't put on since we've been doing the renovations. I can spray paint a number on it pretty quickly.
And
That wasn't one of the
probably
things
solve
that
the
was.
problem right there.
Yeah.
The stairs have to have a handrail. That's mandatory. So
Well, it says on
even
the
a temporary one, doesn't matter.
it says on the order that it's only if it's over three steps. And I used some old steps so that they aren't actually compliant. But if I was to building that staircase new, it would be less than 3 steps. So it's not.
Push over 21 inches, so you probably need
It's
a railing.
I'm pretty sure it was under, but I can double check. And if it is, I could throw a railing on there.
Well, that's very important if they required it.
It just seems like someone has it out for my property in the past little while and have been calling and complaining. And I've heard from a past inspector that they were saying it was causing problems with the property, and the neighbors, I'm well acquainted with the neighbors, and they have 0 issues, and the house isn't causing any problems for anyone at all, other than someone has to look at it as they drive by. That's literally the extent of it. I haven't had any other issues other than someone complaining because they have to look at the property.
And I think you asked this, but somebody's living in this?
I am.
You know what, just because I'm an insurance background, you might want to check your insurance provider, like you needed probably a proper door and stairs, like.
They have, it has a proper door.
Sure.
And the stairs, it's just the exterior stairs that don't have the railing. The interior stairs have a railing. And
Questions for
I got more questions for the
administration? Okay, more questions for the administration? Okay. Okay, you are the appellant. You will have an opportunity to come back and rebut to information when we discuss with the administration, okay?
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next, is Crystal DeRoche interested in speaking today in support of the appeal?
You could just say you're in support.
Okay, not looking to speak. Okay, just confirming that no one else in the gallery is looking to speak in support of or in opposition to this appeal? Okay,
Okay.
other questions?
Questions of the admin?
I guess I'll start. Very concerned over, like our building code around the stairs and having a door blocked off. Can you talk about that? Would that be through you guys or would that be through fire? Like, is it all connected?
Well, there are multiple areas that might have concern with what's being said there.
Yeah.
What you're seeing. I can tell you that we found bylaw violations relevant to those property conditions listed under the NLB and issued an order. And that's why we're here.
And those are like. And then again, that's for life safety, right? Just to make sure people are safe when they're in these.
Go ahead, Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, I'm just looking at soffits and fascia in disrepair. Did they actually have any? So they're just not installed yet.
Soffits, yes.
Okay.
Fascia and primarily eaves troughs and downspouts are missing.
Any other questions? Okay, so when we've heard from the appellant about foundation concerns, there's nothing in here about the foundation. It's hard for me to read because there's quite a few things here, but speaking about the foundation, is there anything where you need an order for the foundation to be fixed?
We have not been inside this building in
Okay.
order to be able to comment on the foundation.
Okay.
I would assume that would be covered off by their building permit. If and when they get to the point of requesting inspections, that would be PP&D that would be looking at that.
Okay. In its current state, like to me, it doesn't look inhabitable. Like, but it seems like someone is living there and feels it is inhabitable. Where does it become to the point where the outside, you know what I mean? Because he's still living there, he has a right to still live there, but we have bylaw infractions that are stating that it's not inhabitable due to safety codes. Can you kind of clarify that for me?
Our investigation started with this being a vacant building due to the boards and the condition of the property. The appellant has stated that he is the owner and does live at this property, provided evidence of such. We're now enforcing what we are aware of as a bylaw violation and what was observed when we were on the exterior of the property.
Just the exterior of the property. You don't have jurisdiction over whether or not the place is habitable or not. That's more like internal thing, right?
Those can be referrals to health if we have concern for the occupant. Those can be referrals to RTB if it was a rental situation. There are other agencies that we do liaise with. I can tell you only what the order before us today is for the exterior conditions of the property.
So exposed plywood board is okay to live through the winter time.
No. Those plywood needs to be covered and needs to be water resistant. That's why the order lists it as needing to have proper siding.
And what is the time frame to? Sorry, I don't see the time frame of when he needed to comply by.
16th of this coming year.
November 16th.
Just confirm that. November 16th, 2025.
Is there an opportunity to list out what needs to be complied by, like in an order of importance before winter time arrives?
In terms of prioritizing,
Yeah,
we typically don't do that, Counselor. We list what the bylaw violations are. We expect all of them to be brought to compliance.
okay. Okay. Any other questions? No, no questions? Okay. Bring back the phone.
Okay, so the appellant has the opportunity for rebuttal to comments made, but no new information is permitted. Fernando, you have up to 5 minutes for your rebuttal.
Ms. Santos was asking about the foundation. The foundation is structurally sound. The city just requires additional reinforcement of it for in case future problems arise, basically. Like it's literally pouring a bunch of gravel along the outside of the foundation and waterproofing it just so that it's reinforced.
Anything else you want to speak to?
As far as everything, the plywood and all the exterior, the Tyvek is actually a waterproof membrane. It's not a finishing membrane, but it is water resistant, and it's applied to the building in case water gets behind the siding to shed water away from the plywood. And the plywood itself does not determine whether a building is habitable or not, because every house has the same plywood on the outside. It's the insulation and everything on the inside that would determine whether it's warm enough and etc. to be habitable, basically.
Okay. But there is exposed plywood. It's not all covered by Tyvek.
There's one small corner on the upper southeast corner that has been exposed. The Tyvek's ripped away, like I had mentioned earlier, and I just haven't put it back on because that hasn't been my priority, because I've been working towards getting the structural finished. I can apply it this week if that's what changes the order, but it hasn't been a priority of mine because that corner of the house is watertight, and I've never had any indication of any water intrusion on that from the missing Tyvek.
Right. Any other questions? No questions? None? Saying none? Okay, thank you for your presentation. Right. Anybody have motions, discussion? Okay, go ahead, Councillor Gilroy.
But the receipt of the public representations be concluded.
All those in favor? Aye, that's carried.
And that the appeal be denied and order of the bylaw officer licensing and bylaw enforcement community services department be confirmed.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's carried unanimously.
And that the appeal hearing with this respect be concluded.
You said be concluded?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Kate. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's carried unanimously.
The committee has made a final decision on this matter, which is not subject to further appeal.
All right, seeing the time, 11:30, I'm willing to keep moving forward.
Do you want to move forward or do you want to move that to the top?
Well, we have delegations.
Okay.
And I do have a hard stop at 12:30 for lunch break, so I would like to push through delegation, and depending on the time, we
Then
can
we'll
move
see.
the encampment stuff up first
Okay.
before we break for lunch.
Sure.
Okay? Okay, so we need a couple of suspension of the rules. One, to allow for the addendum reports 8 and 9, and then also suspension of the rules to allow delegations to appear. Specifically, I think Councillor Brawadi, and as well as Winnipeg Arts Council, Dominic Lloyd. Okay, So moved by Councillor Gilroy to do those two. All right, all those in favor? Aye, and that's carried. Okay, we'll move on to delegations. I see we have Councillor Brawadi online. Go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. I'm here in regards to addendum report number 8. It's in regards to a new basketball court, and we're also building some pickleball courts at Gateway Rec Center. The work is nearing completion, and we're hoping to do a ribbon cutting in early October. Chad Posthumous is a bit of an icon in this city, having been the first captain of the Winnipeg Sea Bears. He is actually a Northeast Winnipeg, Northeast Capital Region person. He is a River East Kodiak and got his start, I think, in organized basketball with the River East Kodiaks. I've had an opportunity to cross paths with him several times over the years. His father is a municipal councillor in the RM of East St. Paul, and at a number of FCM and AMM type events, his son actually showed up along with him a number of times. It was obviously a very tragic passing of last fall when, due to a brain aneurysm, he passed, and certainly a big loss to our community. He was involved in a lot of charitable work, working with a lot of other young people, and I've spoken to the family. They've accepted this as an honor for him, and I would like to move this motion through. This may be the final step, actually, for this particular motion, to have the basketball court at Gateway Rec Center named after named the Chad Posthumous Memorial Court. And I very much appreciate your support today.
Thank you. Just for a quick the clerk, is this the last step that is it, or does it have to go to council? Do you know? This would be the final decision? Okay. I don't have any questions. Really appreciate you coming out and making the time to make a presentation. I think we're looking to really support your motion and get this underway. Seeing no questions. Okay. Seeing no questions. Thank you for coming out.
Much appreciated. Have a good meeting.
Thank you. Okay, up next is Dominic Lloyd for the Winnipeg Arts Council to be heard with respect to annual report 2024. Thank you. Hi, welcome.
Thank you very much. And thank you both, Councillor, and to the clerk's office for affecting my little chat here today. I'll do my best to take up not a lot of your time. I just wanted to speak to the annual report, which has been provided to the city, which is something that we do every year from the Winnipeg Arts Council. And to let you know that one of the reasons why we do it the way we do and we create this physical record is because it's just that. It is a real document of what's going on in Winnipeg, of who Winnipeggers are and how they share their stories with each other. And that really depends on the support of the city and of city council to make that happen. You know, culture is a couple things. It's kind of what we inherit, but it's also what we create together for the future. And I think City Council had the foresight to know that, and that's why they created the Winnipeg Arts Council back in 2002, was to make sure that that work gets done, and that's work that we're very proud to do on an ongoing basis. Where we really are a city building organization, and the people that you see in our annual report, whether they're artists or arts organizations. They're invested in their own practices, but they're also invested in Winnipeg, and they're invested in making our city a better place. The work that we are able to assist them in doing really is enjoyed by millions of Winnipeggers every year between performance and visual arts and theater and dance. It's a huge impact. It's an economic impact. It's a social impact. It really is the total package. And one of the things that you can see when you flip through our report is that the arts are an ecosystem. So we have our big, famous, world-renowned organizations, but we also have a lot of small organizations. We have individual artists. We have independents who are working day in, day out to create great things. And I wanted to just give you one short example of a filmmaker named Rain Vermette, whose name is very unassumingly in the back of that book. Rain is a Métis filmmaker here in Winnipeg. She received a small grant from us in 2024 to create a film called Levers. And that film on Friday night had its world premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival. Friday night 6 PM on the festival's main stage, main screen. That's a huge strike for any artist anywhere in the world, but that's somebody from our neck of the woods who was able to do it with WAC support. So that's the kind of important things that we do. You know, we've spoken before about City of Song, which was our way of celebrating Winnipeg's 150th anniversary throughout 2024. 2,300 singers and 60,000 audience members all coming together, really just to get to know each other through singing of songs. And we asked people to come, and they did. Our former poet laureate, Chimwemwe Unde, finished her term as Winnipeg Poet Laureate in 2024, and immediately at the end of the year was named the Parliamentary Poet Laureate of Canada. I was joking with Chim last week, and I said, from Lunchtime Poetry Club at Fort Richmond Collegiate to the highest office in the land, that road leads through the Winnipeg Arts Council, and it leads there with your support. I can't talk about 2024 without mentioning Carol Phillips' retirement. Carol was our executive director for 18 years. She was a visionary leader. She brought so much knowledge and vision to Winnipeg. It was thanks to her that our city was named Cultural Capital of Canada. And, there's just so many more accomplishments. The city's been benefiting from Carol's leadership for years and will continue to do so. And I'll just close out by mentioning a huge part of what we do, which is public art. And public art, has been a staple of the Winnipeg Arts Council's activities since council unanimously passed a public art policy back in 2004. It's had a little bit of a challenge of funding over more recent years. But in 2024, as part of your budget vote, council directed the admin to work with the Winnipeg Arts Council to create a recommendation for a percent for art policy, which is the norm in most cities in Canada and even beyond. So a good part of our year was spent working in collaboration with the city's public service to create a recommendation for that program. It was referred to the Strategic Priorities Action Plan for the next budget. So we saw that as a bit of a hiccup. We're would have liked to see it move along a bit more quickly, but we're also confident that it can move forward. And that's what I'm here to tell you today, is that we're here to help you and to help council make the best decisions that it can, and to move the arts forward. And I'll just wrap up here by going back to that word impact. That's what the arts do in our city, and that's what this annual report does, and that's why we did it in 2024. We're still doing it now, and we'll probably be doing it in 2026.
Thank you. Any other questions, follow-up questions to the presentation? No, very clear and concise. Great job.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you making the time.
Thank you.
Okay, any other delegations? No, that's it for today. All right. Just seeing here. Okay, just looking at the time. I believe we'd like to deal with, just because I want to go for lunch at 12:30, I have a hard stop, and one of the counselors is needing to leave early on afternoon. If it's the will of committee, I'd like to deal with number 5 right away. If that's okay, is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. How are we gonna do this? So I do have questions, legal questions. Do we have anybody from legal here
I'm aware of.
to speak?
From the administration is here to speak to the matter.
Anybody from the administration here to speak to the matter? No? Okay. Can we just do a quick 5-minute break?
Sure.
Yeah, I do have questions for legal. Okay, let's do a quick 5-minute break and reconvene at 11:40 sharp. Okay, welcome back to the Standing Policy Committee on Community Services. We are moving the agenda slightly because I do have a hard stop at 12:30 p.m. And then break for lunch, and then we'll come back at 1:30. And then I believe we have someone from the committee that is leaving to do something else. So we will be short a committee member this afternoon. But number 5, encampment bylaw enforcement. We'll bring that up to the beginning of the agenda. Do we need to move? No. Okay, we have concurrence of our committee. We do have a member from the CAO's department, Greg McPherson, to field questions that I do have, but first I'll turn it to committee members if anybody has questions about the motion, and I believe we do have an amendment that is coming on the floor as well.
I'm wondering if it'd be prudent for us to say what the amendment is.
Sure.
And ask questions, so if there was questions on the amendment, they would have an opportunity to ask.
Okay, let's do that. Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Gilroy.
Okay. Therefore be resolved that the recommendations 1 and 2 be deleted in the entirety and replaced with the following. That the public service be directed to implement the following by November 17th, 2025. Prohibit encampments and prioritize enforcements in the following areas. Within 50 meters of the perimeter of playgrounds, pools, spray pads, or outdoor recreation facilities designed for children, families, or seniors. Within 50 meters of a perimeter of schools, daycares, or adult care facilities where a hazard or obstruction to vehicle or pedestrian traffic exists within a medium or traffic island, within 30 meters of a transit shelter, within 30 meters of a bridges, docks, or piers, within 50 meters of a rail line or crossing where life safety issues exist. Prioritize enforcement on all other city properties, spaces between the following times: 1 hour after sunrise and 1 hour before sunset. Work with outreach service providers to give reasonable notice of the intended enforcement to encampment residents and notify them of shelter options. Number 4 is to remediate vacant encampments, to clear them of debris and other issues that are possibly around encampments. Number 5 is allocate existing resources for enforcement and garbage remediation through the office of the CAO as required. Number 6 is to report back in council in 60 days with a policy that formalizes the above approach and outlines responsibilities. And number 7 is that the proper officers of the city be authorized to do all things necessary to implement the intent of the foregoing. So the motion goes a little bit beyond the original motion of just playgrounds, but also sets some parameters of some meters of where we would like to see no encampments. And also give some timelines for what in other spaces within the city, give some kind of timelines, the sunset and sunrise, where people can camp overnight.
That's the motion amendment on the floor. Any questions for the administration? Okay, so I have questions just for some clarity. Because looks like we're doing a bit of a timed enforcement. Could you speak to other jurisdictions across Canada that are doing similar timed enforcements?
Sure. Yeah, one example that springs to mind is Hamilton. Hamilton's done something similar. And I think some of the work we've been doing is exploring successes that they've had with that specific approach. So doing a dusk till dawn, 1 hour before, 1 hour after approach provides the opportunity for people to sleep at night safely, but then also for the public service to be able to enforce its own park bylaws, most of the parks, but other bylaws during the day.
Okay. So then I guess you kind of touched light on the parks bylaw, right? Because we currently have a parks bylaw that basically says no tenting or no camping. So why are we doing this now and not just enforcing our no camping in parks bylaw?
Well, I think this is a good start. One of the biggest concerns we have as a city is our maintain attention to our responsibility within the charter. So the Charter of Human Rights protects people's right to sleep overnight. We can't put people in danger. So if we do enforce our bylaw, or if we enforce our park bylaw, and we have described, the concern to date has been that doing so may place people in jeopardy, their safety will be placed in jeopardy. the way to get around that is with housing. So we are part of the Your Way Home strategy with the province. Presently, one of the issues we've been struggling with though is that there just aren't enough units to place all the people who would like to be housed. If we go into an encampment, we're finding that they're just, there's so many people who want housing. It's not available to them. We're not really able to enforce in the way that we would like to be able to. And certainly enforcement starts with those offers of housing. So moving forward, this would give us more tools in our toolbox to help to manage the situation. Presently, we've elected not to enforce some of those parks bylaws. I think this will give us some way around the legal issues that are associated with removing people from their place of residence.
Right. Okay, so what we're suggesting now is creating, I guess, a new policy, or are we tying it to our current encampment policy?
I think we'll be updating the encampment policy, so our CAO has already brought the direction that we begin to redevelop, redesign the previous encampment policy to create a protocol, identifies the roles and responsibilities of all departments within the city, and also does so in the context of the Your Way Home strategy, so that we're respecting the partnership that we have, the objectives of the Your Way Home strategy, but updating our own protocols that make a little bit more sense than they would have otherwise.
So what's coming back in 60 days to council, is that, are you guys going to be bringing forward that amendment encampment policy as well, or just a report?
Report, to my understanding, that if this moves along, our report would respond to this with a policy recommendation. And I think internally, I think we'll have that finished prior to the 60 days either.
Okay.
Our goal is to have that finished within the next few weeks.
Okay, and then talk to me a little bit about the garbage piece. I guess that will be more done like internally. There's no request coming later on to ask for more funding to remove garbage debris, because I'm just talking about the mindful cleanup that we initiated earlier this year, and then, there was no funding for it. So can you a little bit talk about that piece? How are we going to mitigate the debris that is currently out there? If we do manage to move people from encampments to housing, like where's that piece? Because I do see like remediation to happen.
I can't really speak to that. I think that I would do an injustice to it. It'd likely be a conversation for the director of public works. And my expectation though would be within our 60-day window, we would have clear answers on that front and be able to propose some options for council's consideration.
Okay. I think those are all the questions I had with respect to the amendment. Any other questions? No? Okay, all right. Thank you for making the time. Appreciate it. All right. Okay, so since that's Councillor Gilroy's amendment, no further discussion or debate, that will move through EPC and council. Is that correct? Okay. So all those in favor? Aye. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to report 1, Winnipeg Arts Council annual report. I believe this is just to receive it as information. Okay, moved by Councillor Manillard. All those in favor? Aye, that's carried. Moving on to item number 2, Winnipeg Public Library's attendance and incident quarterly report, April, May, and June 2025, together with the library code of conduct. I believe we have the manager from library services as well as community services department. Do you guys have questions, or are we just receiving it as information? No questions for the admin?
I guess
We can,
we should probably ask questions on this, like this is,
It's up to you. Do
yeah,
you have questions? Do you have questions?
yeah.
Okay, there's questions. Come on down. Morning. Couple of minutes for morning. I know we're on that time crunch, and I know it's okay that that you may have questions, we can give a preamble to,
Yeah.
to the report and give you a summary, or just open it up to questions, whatever you guys prefer.
We can just have questions, eh?
Sure.
So just for me, because I'm curious, because I know that we did away with our the community host program that was in front of the library. Since then, have we seen a significant increase in the incidences and the types of incidents that we're seeing at the Millennium Library?
Okay, so just for clarification, we do still have the community safety host.
Right, yeah.
What was closed was the community connections space that was run by the library staff.
Correct.
Yeah, right.
But we don't have as many people working in there now. Am I correct on that? There's not as many community safety hosts.
No, we have the same.
Well, there were 2 dedicated to
Oh,
community
that's-
connections.
yeah.
Heard about it in total. and
Right.
now there are 5.
So we're down. So just seeing, because I also think that the actual space itself served as a purpose for the library. So I'm interested to see if what we're seeing is kind of, the impact of that. Yeah.
So the statistics in the report show many more information questions and referrals to community resources at the service desks on all 4 floors at Millennium Library. And it's reasonable to say that that is an impact of community connections closing at the end of 2024. As to whether the number of incidents is different based on the closure of that space, that's tough to correlate and say, but we do have statistics about thousands of questions and referrals being made inside the building. So the difference is we don't have that dedicated space in the lobby where more time spent with individual people with higher needs. That's just not possible at the main service desks inside the building.
Okay.
I have one question.
Sure.
Sir William Stevenson Library, the attendance was down significantly. Is there any reason for that? Down 28% from the looks of it.
No, I don't have any particular reason noted for that. We do know that sometimes the equipment that counts people coming in and out of buildings
Oh,
doesn't
could do it.
perform. And we're not always aware when it's not functioning properly. We do try to find that out when we see stats like this. You can see, one of the notes is about St. Hotel's equipment needing repair. But Sir William Stevenson, I believe we followed up with the branch head supervisor there, and we didn't have a particular reason.
Okay, so it just might be a glitch.
Could be.
Okay.
So on that note, since we are looking at table 1, we did note that there is a mistake in the report on the line for the Harvey Smith Library. So the report actually shows that there's an increase of 159%. Yeah, that was an error. So we're gonna have to correct that in the next report.
That's too bad because I really liked seeing.
Yeah, well, there still is a 29%, 29 of that. It's still very positive.
Maybe you're giving out free ice cream or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so apologize. There's so many eyes on it, but none of us seem to have caught that particular one. So we'll correct that in the next report.
The only thing I was gonna ask you guys on about our mobile library. Like, how often is that going out, and can we report on some of those numbers? Because I think that that's a very positive.
Certainly, we have statistics on the mobile van, the library van that goes out.
Yeah.
Goes out a couple of times a month to set dedicated sites that we have established relationships with, and so that people come to expect the van being there on certain days. And those are on our website. I can't name them without risk of error on the spot, but there is a webpage saying when they're out on at the different sites, so we can provide statistics on the visits that they do and the people that they see. They
Yeah.
take materials out to loan. People can get library cards.
That'd be interesting.
Questions? No, okay. Anybody willing to receive it as information, please? Councilor Lard, okay. All those in favor? Aye, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Up next is the contribution agreement for 2025-2026 Manitoba Adult Literacy Program funding. I believe that is you guys again. Yep.
Yes.
Go for it.
And this is a good news report. I'll let Karen provide a summary, but essentially we are requesting that the committee approve the funding that we are going to be receiving from the province of Manitoba for the 2025 to 26 Manitoba Adult Literacy Program funding. And then also asking for delegated authority to be provided to the CFO for future negotiations and agreements, but we've actually added another site. So I'll let Karen talk about that.
Excuse me, the province of Manitoba Department of Adult Education and Training oversees the Adult Literacy Act and its regulations. Community Services and Library Services has been applying for and receiving funding from the province under this act to deliver an adult literacy program since 2010. Contribution agreement for 2025-2026 Manitoba Adult Literacy Program funding requires approval to receive this year's funding. And this year's funding has increased to allow for a new second program site to be located at Millennium Library. The Adult Literacy Program offers free adult literacy and upgrading classes, in addition to learning resources purchased for the program through the annual grant. Learners have access to the library's collections, including the Learn English, EAL, and Adult Literacy collections. So the WPL Adult Literacy Program is free and open to any adult over age 18. Since the program began in 2010, over 270 Winnipeggers have benefited from attending the program. The Adult Literacy Program at Harvey Smith Library is for adults who are at stage 1 or 2 in their reading, writing, and document use literacy. This year, Library Services requested additional funds from the province to expand to a second site at Millennium Library. And this program will be for the higher stages, stage 2 and 3. Both programs infuse basic numeracy and digital literacy skills in the class. The annual funding covers the cost of the instructor's salary and benefits. That instructor is classified as a library service assistant 4. It covers technology, laptops and a cell phone, the office supplies, books, and learning resources. And Library Services provides in kind through staff time for the administrative coordinator, plus finance and HR needs. There is dedicated classroom space inside Harvey Smith Library, and for the new site, this will be the former study room at Millennium Library on the 3rd floor. So as Cindy mentioned, in our recommendations, we are requesting that the grant from the province of Manitoba for $112,210 for the 2025-26 funding year be approved. And we are also requesting delegated authority to the CFO to enter into all future agreements. And if I can end just by noting that today, September 8th, is International Literacy Day, a day first declared by UNESCO in 1966 as a special time to highlight the importance of literacy in our community.
I think I'd be happy to move that.
Okay. Councillor Gilroy moves support of the public service recommendation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's carried unanimously. Item number 4, indoor arena ice allocation policy. Moving on to community services, Jen Sarna, and who do we have here?
This is Jennifer Larson.
Hi, Jennifer.
Introduce yourself to the group.
Yep, I'm Jennifer Larson, the administrative coordinator for Recreation Services business.
Okay.
All right, so before you is this round 2 of the indoor ice allocation policy, because we did bring forward a report earlier in May. And at that time, council approved and updated the ice allocation policy, but then asked if city staff could look into what would happen if we change the order of who gets to book ice first. So specifically, you wanted to know what would happen if the school division, high school ice programs moved from a priority 5 to a priority 3, which would then move them ahead of major hockey. So the public service, through Jen Larson and her team, reviewed how that change might affect the operations and the different groups. And so I'll leave her to provide a bit of a summary as to what we found. And then open it up for questions.
Okay, so for clarification, both major hockey and high school division, high school ice programs are both for youth. Right now, both groups receive all the ice time that they are asking for at our city run arenas. If the groups were reprioritized as proposed, we anticipate that major hockey would lose access to some of the times that they are currently booking. So school division programs are usually booking ice in the late afternoon. If there were a change to the priority and they were able to book their ice before major hockey, we might see a change in their booking behavior, and they might start booking for the more popular evening times instead. Major hockey typically does not request late afternoon times. The impact of this might be that late afternoon ice would go unused. Major hockey and other groups that now book in the evening might be competing for those popular spaces and then be looking for ice time somewhere else. This could also mean fewer bookings and less revenue for the city and community center run. Since both groups are receiving all the ice time that they're currently asking for at city operated arenas within the existing priority and policy, our recommendation is not to change the priority order at this time.
So the report, this was Councillor Allard's attempt.
Yeah, I'd move this, so I'll move this
okay?
information at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you. Right, all those in favor to move it, or sorry, I think you moved it, Councillor.
I moved it.
Okay, you moved it. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Since we have community services here, I think if it's okay, could we move up the item number 9, the CIGP?
Yeah, I think it was an ad.
Yeah, the addendum.
And yeah.
You want to talk to this and then you can go for the rest of the meeting? Yeah, we can do that. Okay, item number 9, Community Incentive Grant, Winnipeg Chinese Cultural and Community Center Corporation. This was something that was done at my committee at LSWK. The history was they had applied in the past for 30 grand to assist with the upgrades to the cultural center. And I think there was just some back and forth with the clerk and the association, and unfortunately the monies were never used or issued. Since then, they've had a new president. There's been a change of leadership over at the cultural center, and I have told them the 30 grand was still readily available for them to utilize. They have spent, I believe, all the money. I think the construction's all finished. It's just a matter of a commitment from myself, from the Point Douglas to the cultural center. So I'd like to do that, but it doesn't meet criteria and requires council's direction and support to fulfill the grant.
So I just want to clarify
Yeah.
one piece. So
Sure.
in June 2024, council approved, if you remember, we had a kind of 1-year hiatus of the CIGP program. And so we needed to come back with an actual bylaw. So the CIGP program, for the many decades that it was operating, legal services advised us that we needed an actual bylaw. So we brought forward a report that was approved by June of 2027. And at that time, we also identified 12 projects that were no activity whatsoever was happening on these particular 12 projects, of which the Winnipeg Chinese Cultural and Community Center Corporation was one of them. So we had approved March of 2021 for this $30,000. But at the time when we brought this report forward in June of 2024, we also listed about 12 projects that were approved by council for the funds to be returned back to the wards. So the projects were essentially canceled because there was no activity, no communication whatsoever with those. So as you said, since then, there has been a change in, I guess, leadership of the cultural society. So they are now wanting access to their $30,000. Project essentially doesn't really, it's not meeting any of the criteria. Normally we approve the project ahead of time. There's a number of steps involved and then we reimburse. So in this particular case, project was closed. They still went ahead and did the work and it's all been completed in 2024.
That's past the 2 year.
So now it's passed. And so now they're wanting retroactively this $30,000. So that is not within my authority to do. So that would require council approval to approve a grant, $30,000 to be released.
Okay, do I understand this correctly? So it was done in 2020 or 2022 or something, the project was finished, or 2024? But the money was originally awarded in 2021 or 20?
The application for the project was approved in 2021.
Okay.
And then there was no activity. And so in June of 2024, through the council approved report that we put forward with the CIGP bylaw, we also had 12 projects, of which this was one of them, canceled and the funds returned to
Because it exceeded
the wards.
2 years zone.
It was sitting with too many years of no
2 years.
no communication,
That's
no
right, and it
activity.
has to be completed within 2 years. All right, so what's the question now? Are they reapplying for it?
Yeah, they have. I've told the new leadership they have to reapply for the $30,000. Yeah, and so that's what they've done.
30,000 now.
So they're just not meeting criteria of
Yeah.
the CIGP.
Yeah.
So the criteria for their application needs to be.
Yeah, as area councillor, I had committed the funding to them.
Mhm.
And I guess they were not able to allocate it or use it up within the 2 year time frame. The project is completed. I had met with the new leadership and I had said that the money is still there if they choose to need it. And they said they are still in the hole, like they still are short funding and would like to allocate it so that they can kind of assist with whatever loan that they still have outstanding.
So this is just
It's just a bit of a
it's just a
formality.
waive, it's a waive the rule request?
Yeah, we need to waive the rules because the project is basically finished.
Okay, I think I've always waived the rules.
Yeah,
For me,
So,
right,
I
commitments,
would like
I'll stay consistent with that.
thank you. I would appreciate if I could support. I
I'll
don't
move-
think this
I'll
does
move
go
it.
to council, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Council has to.
Be up to the area
Council has to approve it, but
I move,
approval on my behalf.
yes.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we still got some time. All right, let's move on to City of Winnipeg Tree Protection Bylaw. Is that where we're at?
Yeah.
Okay. Requesting another extension.
Yes, this continues to require administrative review
Sure.
and it takes a lot of time to put these things together. So
Take no worries. Is it up to?
we're
Up to 90 days.
up to 90 days,
Okay,
yes.
but it could come back sooner?
It could.
Okay. I would like that to happen. All right, move
I'll do this
extension.
one.
Thank you, Councillor Dobson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Move on to, that's supporting unanimously. Okay, move on to item 7, options to reduce need for adult nuisance mosquito control. All right, fun topic.
Yes, this committee asked us to look at 5 different items regarding the control of mosquitoes in Winnipeg. I'll try and be very precise and short with them. First was to reduce the number of bites per minute without increasing budget. The report says that's difficult to do. We thought of possibly a way through, and that would be increasing the insect control reserve from 3 to 5 million. That would give us the flexibility to overspend our budget. And not overspend the budget, but rather spend into the insect control reserve. It was more, there's actually is a bit budgetary impact to that though when we talk to our finance folks, because it says we lose flexibility to spend other over expenditures within our department. So it seems like it might be a good idea, but it's got there's some reservations there. The other options to increase the budget was really the second and third item in our list. We could create a master plan for source reduction for $200,000. That's hire a consultant to improve drainage across the city. This is not one of our favored options at this time. It wouldn't be the first thing that we would move towards. But certainly it would look at low areas within the city, find ways to improve the drainage so that there's not as many breeding sites for mosquitoes. Then there's a level of service increases between 600,000 and 850,000. The 600,000 is increasing staff and equipment for more frequent larviciding. So we're going to increase the frequency of our larviciding in order to offset this. The second is to change our chemicals to more methoprene. Methoprene lasts longer. It's a lot longer lasting larvicide. And if we increase that component towards our other components in the program, it would actually end up costing more money, but being more effective too. With that, all these items really say that we need a new insect control facility. Sort of regardless of whether or not these are funded or not. The existing facility, is overstaffed, and it's a 1960s building like every other sort of city Winnipeg building. And there needs to be a new site for our staff. The final thing is Delta Guard. We used a little more up this year. The report talks about 2 to 3 years left. One thing I did want to make very clear with this committee is that we also use some of that Delta Guard for West Nile virus control in the province. The province asks us to do that. We have the expertise to do that. It's a human health concern, so we feel that we need to continue that level of service. That being said, there's also some nuisance mosquito work that I believe, and David is on his way if he makes it. I think it's East St. Paul, West St. Paul, where we do have a contract with them that we could end in order to keep more Delta Guard for ourselves. So I just want to be open and honest with transparent with how our Delta Guard is being used, since it seems like it is a product that is of limited nature. No other companies have come forward when we've talked to them to suggest that a product they're willing to support another insect control product. At this point in time. That's my quick summary. Maybe not so quick.
One question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't see here the methoprene.
The methoprene, yes.
Okay. So is that just more expensive than Delta Guard?
No, not Delta. Delta Guard is the adulticiding product.
Okay.
Methoprene is one of the larviciding.
Larvicide
Product, yes.
All right, so they're two totally different.
Two totally different things. Methoprene just lasts in the water for 21 days, I believe what the report says. So it's a much longer lasting chemical than our other products.
Okay, no, I just wasn't clear on that, but now I understand. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And this report has received this information, I guess. That's
I'm sure this one.
This was your motion too.
Yeah, yeah, I was interested in the possible linkage between the water and waste work and green infrastructure and who the lead would be on that sort of initiative, presuming water and waste. And then the other thing I heard, which is new for me, is this contract where we might get some of the Delta Guard back. I don't know what we do with that. Do you have a recommendation with that? Related to that?
Regarding water and waste.
Yes.
We do talk with them, and their initiatives aren't really. They've got a couple of pilot projects going on right now. That's kind of the extent of what they're doing. But we are in conversation with them.
But they're not. They don't have a mosquito focus necessarily.
They don't necessarily, but they do want to drain water. But they might want to drain it to some degree a little slower because they want more infiltration into the groundwater, right?
Right.
But
Conflicting priorities.
I'm not sure they're conflicting because where they want to do some of this, they want to create natural areas, which is kind of exciting to the rest of the parks and open space division, which we like.
Okay, so getting into the weeds, no pun intended. Standing water is like basically the mosquito like needs to like a pool of water. It's not like wet grass that's gonna allow them to breathe. They actually need like a certain amount of water. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, they do need standing water in order to be successful at breeding.
So like, for example, a bioswale, it's properly absorbing water would conceivably not be a breeding ground for.
Well, hopefully not. I think if it's still well drained at the end of the day, it can slow down water. We haven't looked at that conflict that deeply between what water waste is doing and what we're proposing here.
Yeah.
But the practical sense is that there's not a lot of resources either way to be able to address that. I'd like to introduce you to David Wade. You're able to attend, so he can answer smarter questions than me.
Well, I was kind of at the end of my question. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Too late.
I don't know. Is there maybe just to go back to the possibility of synergies with water and waste? I know I was asked by media, like, is there anything that stands out for this report? You ordered it, and for me, the one that stood out was, okay, well, if there's existing work and existing funding happening with water and waste, could we have a more formal approach so that this issue is considered at the same time as we do, say, CSO work or bioswales or the whatever it is that we are doing in water and waste as it pertains to a wastewater. Well, not wastewater, but I guess draining water outside of the wastewater system. So is there a way to formalize that like, in this committee, or is it going to happen anyway? Do we talk to public works committee members? Is there a follow-up there, I guess?
Okay, let me just bring David up to speed on this, in that I've reported to the committee here that we are working with water and waste. We've been doing that. There's some discussion about whether there's a conflict on mosquito sites to what they're doing compared to what we are, and I'm uncertain about that. Because they want water to infiltrate in versus drain at the end of the day. And now I guess the question from Councillor Bard, whose original motions was to whether or not we need anything more formal to work with water and waste. What are your thoughts on that?
I just that was like, it's pretty compelling when you see $100,000 line and that the mosquito environment is gone forever. That does seem like a good value for money. I guess that might be the type of thing that could be done with water and waste. Question mark.
I mean, yeah, in the work that Water Waste is doing, the green infrastructure work that they're doing, it definitely benefits insect control. And we have been, since the last report to council or committee, we have been, sharing more information with Water Waste. So they're aware, for example, they're fully aware now where our standing water sites are. And they're, using that as an additional layer of information for when they're looking at their work moving forward. I mean, the work they're doing takes a lot of years of planning. So, I mean, some stuff is already in the works and some stuff is upcoming. And they're actually, the next area to be working on is the area around where Gray Street is. And there's lots of standing water issues there. So yeah, I mean, anything that they do is beneficial to insect control. And yeah, we have been sharing more information with them, and they're limited by there's limitations to how much they can do because of both money and land availability. But they are any green infrastructure projects in the long run, if done properly and maintained in the long term, will benefit insect control for sure.
Okay, well, I found it particularly interesting. I think the line is $100,000, like on a project. to eliminate mosquito habitat.
This line,
Was that just that?
in this
was that
report?
Was that just a consultant?
No,
Yeah,
this is just consulting fees.
that would be just.
So, yeah, if we were to hire a consultant to work on this, we're talking millions of dollars to reduce.
So then,
Yeah.
That
reduce
works.
sites right across the city.
presumably some of that work could be done or is being done.
Yeah.
Okay, well. Perhaps I'll have more follow-up discussions on that because it sounds like. I mean, statements like any work that they do helps. With mosquito reductions, yes, but I presume there would be gradations in terms of. That. Well, there
Yeah, I
must
mean,
be better
there's-
and worse solutions.
Yeah, I mean, there's a gradient of options and yeah, like I said, with funding and space availability, they're not
Yeah,
able to do it all, so.
well, I'm ready to remove this from information this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good, excellent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's carried unanimously. Moving on to addendum report, Chad Posthumous Memorial Court. Okay, no discussion. Counselor Gilroy moves and some,
Concerned about in terms of like typically, is there any needed for funding for signage for something like this or?
Yes, yeah, it's still on Parks property at the end of the day, community centers. And my recommendation to the committee is to find a source of funding if they want one of our signs placed at the site.
oh, okay. That, I guess, will be discussed with the area counselor.
Yeah.
Can
Maybe
you go
we
back
can-
and ask the area counselor if he needs signage? She didn't mention any signage.
I guess because we're changing the name, right? So it would need,
Newly constructed basket.
It's a new facility and I had the chance to check with my staff earlier this morning. So far as we know, it's not named yet.
Okay.
So there are opportunities there for,
Oh.
for Chad.
Okay.
But we need to know, yeah, we typically don't fund the signage.
Yeah.
So I can check with Councillor Brawadi
Okay.
if I'm in delegation to see if he's willing to do that.
Okay,
With the, I don't know, the class 5 estimate on signage,
Well, right now, I think it's $1,500 to $2,000 somewhere there.
2,000.
what kind of sign is it? Is it a sign that goes on the fence?
Well, we would, in this particular case, so that's an average park sign cost because with 2 posts. We have done signage on fences also. I don't know what the best solution is for this site, so that would be an upper end cost for it. But my recommendation would be to add that to the motion that assuming the funding will be found for this meeting.
Well, I don't know.
I
You
don't
didn't-
know about assuming, how about we approve the name and then we leave the funding to another process?
Yeah,
yeah, we do that. I'm sure,
They can be, policy and budget can be separated, right?
well, for the amount of maybe, the counselors looking at they're using money through.
maybe
their
they'll
board.
fabricate their own sign.
So-
Does it need to be approved by Public
It
Works?
could, it could be, it could go through the community center too. Yeah, that's another option.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Might do that.
Okay, let's just leave that with the area. We'll let him know, like, we'll ask him what signage, but right now I think just naming the court.
Yeah.
Because I think he's doing something in October kind of
Yeah.
quickly. So I don't want to delay that for him.
Right.
Okay, so Counselor Gilroy moves motion as is.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's carried unanimously. All right, no new business. Okay, consent and adjournment, please.
Did we do the addendum things already?
We did, yeah. The CIGP,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we did that. Okay.
yeah,
Okay, well, that's
move
it. I'll
adjournment?
Yeah.
moved by Counselor Lard. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 12:26.
Yeah.
Wow. Together.